This episode of the What's Happening Delco podcast is brought to you by Delco Meets for Business. Check us out on Meetup, register, and attend one of our fantastic networking meetings, which we meet on the first and third Thursday at the Brick House in Ridley Park, and the second and fourth Thursday at the Upper Crust in Newtown Square. We look forward to seeing you there. What's happening, Delco? I'm Rich Shane, and welcome to the What's Happening Delco podcast. Today, I'm joined by Beth and Sarah of Chimes Holcomb Prevention. Ladies, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
Well, right off the bat, tell our listeners, what is Chimes Holcomb Prevention?
So Chimes Holcomb Prevention is, it's actually a lot of things. Chimes and Holcomb, they cover tons of services all over. Our department is quite different. The rest of our organization is more clinical, that do like mental health, behavioral health, drug and alcohol services. But our department, which is located in media, we're right across the street from Pinocchio's Pizza. We are the prevention department. So our main job is to work in the community of Delaware County and educate and provide support for anyone in the county for mainly drug and alcohol services, but we do additional services as well. And I'd say probably our biggest program is providing education to youth in the schools. So we go in as early as kindergarten and we can work up to college age. Mostly our education would be like elementary, middle, and high school. And we provide evidence-based programming, which basically means it's like proven to be effective. Education for drug and alcohol, healthy relationships, life skills, things like that.
Now, all right, there's a lot to everything you just said, Beth. Talk a little bit to, all right, you're doing some of these programs, some of the main ideas or issues or items that you want to have your audience, in this case, those younger adults, those children, take away from the program.
Yeah. So for anyone that's listening, a lot of people hear like when someone's like, oh, what do you do for a job? And I explain, they say, oh, that's kind of like the DARE program. And I'm like, well, that's what a lot of people say. So if you think back, if you're around my age and you had DARE growing up in elementary school, that was sort of like the first try at prevention. But the difference between programs like DARE and what we are doing is those programs were more of like scare tactics, where you'd have a police officer come in, really trying to do amazing work with students, but they were just trying to like scare them into not using drugs. And they found over time, and the data showed that it wasn't really effective. That most of the kids learning were thinking like, oh, well, that might happen to some people, but it's probably not going to happen to me. So then it shifted, and now prevention and education that we use today currently is really just that, providing education, just saying, if you do this, these are the things that could happen. And if you want to learn some skills, like if you're at a party and someone offers you a drug, here's some things that you can do or say to help get you out of that risky situation. So it has shifted over the years, and it will probably continue to shift as the years go on and we get more data to learn what's the best, most effective way to help our youth.
You talk about, hey, I'm at a party, I'm in a social setting, and you have somebody that offers that to you. And it can be very easy to be one of the crowd, right? To not have that stigma upon you by saying, what are some of those ways that you can react to that and rebut that? Hey, just try it, and it won't hurt anybody, or whatever they may be saying today. What are some of the ways to rebut that? Here, this is a drug, just be one of us.
Yeah, so one of the things that we use to look at data and statistics is the PACE survey, which is the PA Youth Survey. And one of those things that we found out through that is a majority of kids don't drink or use alcohol or vape. And it's just that small amount. So when you're around those kids who use drugs or alcohol or vape, that's all you're going to see. So if you're at that party and you're seeing that, that's what you think is normal. That's what your friends are doing. So they kind of just assimilate into that because they're a part of that small percentage. And I feel like that's also a thing with Delco. I grew up in Delco, and it's kind of just like a rite of passage almost to drink and party in high school. But you have to realize that a lot of kids aren't doing that. And I think that's what we try and get across is that is a very small group of kids that are making that choice, and that's their choice to make. But you don't have to make that choice because it's a very easy path to either go down either or. It's either yes or the no path. And it can be really scary to even say like, no, I'm not having that drink, or I'm not smoking, or this, that, and the other, because they don't want to be seen as lame or uncool. But it is cool to just stick up for your morals or your values and say like, hey, like, I'm just not into that. That's your thing, not for me. So yeah.
So I was just going to say, I also grew up in Delco and agree, like you grow up to feel like that is the rite of passage here. That's what you hear about so often. That might make, not that it doesn't happen in other counties, but that's just kind of a thing about Delco. And, when you look around and you see like a lot of the schools are following those same trends, that even though we have different pockets in all the 15 school districts, they're all still kind of following what they think everyone else is doing. So teaching that, the data tells us otherwise. And then for those groups that are in that little pocket, teaching them the strategies of like, well, let's focus on like, what do you like? Do you like sports? Do you like dance? Do you play an instrument? What happens if you start smoking cigarettes or vaping? What could that do to, you who runs track, or you play the flute, or you dance? Or coming up with, here's some good excuses that could work if you're at a party and someone offers. So it's not just, just say no. It's kind of helping them have all those tools in their toolbox of what they could do if they were in that situation.
You've both mentioned vaping, and something for me that wasn't available when I was growing up, I would equate it to cigarettes, but in my mind, or what other people see, is vaping is a safer option. And now it appears more socially acceptable for the younger generation to do. What is it about your approach to help people either A, not start, or B, get off of vaping altogether?
Yeah, I think it's 110% honesty. I do a lot of work with vaping, with mainly middle school. And I did a few presentations at Garnet Valley Middle School, and I just gave them the straight facts. What chemicals are in vaping and cigarettes in general? So formaldehyde, ammonia, things that they don't think about. They just think about the appeal to it. It's that cute little device. It's colored. It has a cotton candy flavoring, and it makes you look cool, because smoking has always been something that is cool. But the downside of it is that there isn't enough research still to back up that, vaping is not okay. We can go out there and say there are all these chemicals in here. It's going to affect your body in many ways. It's going to affect your brain, your nose, your lungs, your kidneys, your blood, everything. And they might still do it because, there's not enough deaths or not enough cancer that has been caused by vaping. But, I just go out there and tell them the facts, because that's all you can do. And the best is when you see the look on their eyes when you say certain things, like when I told them about formaldehyde being in vapes. They were like, isn't that the stuff that frogs are in a creepy science? That I was like, yeah, that's what they're putting the frogs in. So connecting those little things really help them grasp how dangerous some of these activities can really be. And the one thing I really say is, like, if you honestly want to do it, you can wait until you're 21, because that's when you're going to be able to buy it. And that's when the FDA says that you're allowed to do it, because there is no reason for you, no rhyme or reason. You're 13, you're 16, you're in your youth, go run, go play. They don't understand how much it affects them at such a young age, because their bodies are still growing as well. So you're going to get hormone changes, body changes, and they just don't expect it. So when they hear that, it really dials back their curiosity, I guess, to use, but more curiosity stems to what more am I going to learn about vaping or nicotine?
Yeah. And when you think about vaping, like years ago, like how Sarah mentioned the PACE survey that we use to kind of drive what we do and what we focus on with our youth. Years ago, it wasn't even asked on the PACE, like vaping wasn't even a thing. And then as it's been added over the past couple of years, we're starting to get more and more data telling us like, wow, like a lot of students are doing it. And I would say majority of our calls last year were like schools just in crisis. Like, hey, we have kids, we have third graders vaping in the bathroom. Like they can't get through the school day without vaping. We're suspending them, but they come back and they're still vaping. What do we do? And I mean, if you look at even just with like the opioid epidemic and how that all began, it's almost like the same thing is happening with vaping. Years ago, doctors were saying to people who smoke cigarettes, like, oh, hey, do this. It's safer. It's better. It'll help you quit. And now that we are getting, we don't have all the data, like Sarah said, that we need, but we're getting enough data to realize like, hey, maybe what you were told 5 years ago, 8 years ago, isn't necessarily true.
The underlying part about this to me is that there really sounds like there's an underlying wellness component. You talked prior about the DARE program, which was more of a scare straight program. But with what you're doing with Chimes Holcomb Prevention, it's more honing in on the wellness, the overall health of your mind, your body, your spirit, talking about, as you said, Beth, hey, if you're an athlete, if you're a musician, how does this affect drinking drugs, smoking, vaping, all those things? How does that overly affect your overall wellness? And Sarah, you talked about, look, there's growth, there's hormones, there's development, and where does this come into play? So is the mindset really saying, and what part of the program is that wellness component? Where does that come in?
I think it comes in with really all of the programs we do. And one of the first things we do in almost all of our programs is talk to the youth about like, what are some of your goals? What do you want to be when you get older? What's a short-term goal that you have for this school year? What's a long-term goal, after high school? And then taking those goals and really looking at it, like you said, from a wellness perspective of like, okay, bringing in, any of these risky behaviors, whether like we focus a lot on drugs, but you could do anything, violence, not focusing on school, all of the things that a lot of our youth kind of get wrapped up in or what we consider a risky behavior that could affect them. And then say like, how could that affect your goals? And that's, in my opinion, I've been doing this for a long time. That's like the easiest way to get them to kind of see the big picture, because these are things they want to grow up and do. And knowing that something could damage that or make it not happen is sometimes kind of like the only hook you need to get them.
How do people connect with you? How do people find you for the services that Chimes Holcomb Prevention offers you?
So you can find us on Instagram. We have a little bit of a long name, but it's HBHS Prevention Delco. And then we are also on Facebook, and that is Holcomb Prevention Delaware County. So people can follow us there. We want to get a little bit more of a following, so it'd be really awesome if people could follow and like our pages, because we do want to get our business and our work out there, because we do a lot of great stuff for our community.
This is a nonprofit for you, yes?
Yes.
How do people get donations or services that help you with your services?
So we are very fortunate in Delaware County. We receive funding from DDAP, the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programming, and that gets filtered down to each county. So our funding comes from the Delaware County Department of Human Services, the Division of Drug and Alcohol. So all of our programming is free to anyone in Delaware County.
All right. Well, this is Delaware County. This is Delco. Let's do a little talking about Delco. You are on your way to the office and you have that cheesesteak craving. Where are you stopping?
Oh, it's going to be Jim's on Baltimore Pike in Springfield. That's my old stomping grounds, best cheesesteak in Delco. Or Dino Style Pizza. I used to work there in Glen Olden. Please stop by. Great family business.
Mine used to be Doc's Deli, which closed, but I did hear some rumors that they might be reopening. I don't know if that's true. I would love to find out if that was true. I love Thunderbird in Springfield.
Nice. Now, you already mentioned Dino, Sarah, but you have already solved that cheesesteak craving. Is there a place you're going for pizza?
It's going to be Dino's.
I would say Pika's would be my favorite pizza.
Many people say that, which is a lot of fun. Now, I'm going to throw you a curveball. What do you like on your pizza? What are your toppings?
Mine is mushroom.
I'm going to have to double down on mushroom. Mushroom's a solid topping.
Doubling down on the mushroom, Sarah. Okay. Now, you're out and about. You're going to provide one of your presentations to a school and you need a convenience store option. Are you stopping at Wawa or Royal Farms?
Wawa.
Wawa.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, we talked a lot about Delco. How do you describe Delco to somebody that's never been here or does not know what Delco is?
I feel like a lot of people from Philly might dislike this, but we're a mini Philly. We have a lot of heart in Delco. I personally have a Delco flag hanging over my bed at my parents' house. And, I see them all along the shore and I saw one in Europe. So we have such a tight-knit community for also being so large. We have 15, 12 districts or something like that. We're huge, but just being from Delco. Oh, you're from Delco? I'm from Delco. Where'd you grow up? Oh, I know where that is. It's basically like a mini Philly. So I feel, really thankful for being able to grow up here. I love Delco. It's a great place to be.
Agreed. I think a lot of people outside of Delco, they say it's very cult-like here. But I would just say we're really passionate.
You have friends coming in from out of town and you want to give them that Delco experience. Where are you sending them or where are you taking them?
Oh, that's a good question.
This is tough. There's so many places in Delco you can take them. Maybe just a tour. Got to drive all the way down Baltimore Pike from Upper Darby all the way down to Media. Give them the whole strip. I don't know.
Yeah. I love Media. I love the little town in Swarthmore, all the cute little shops. But agree. I feel like you can't just pick one place. There's too many.
Yeah.
What motivates you? What gets you out of bed every morning?
For me, I would say this job. I've been doing this since I graduated, not with Holcomb the whole time, but I've been in the field of prevention. And, it takes a while to see the change happening in prevention. You might start working with a student in first grade and they don't actually get pressured to use drugs till middle school. So it's years before if what you're teaching them works. But the daily reminders, hearing from a teacher the positive change that they're seeing after you've worked with them for a number of weeks, or meeting some of the community members out at different events and having them grateful for some of the services we provide, like the pill pod, so that they can lock up their medication and keep it safe in their home. That's kind of what motivates me. Just, feeling appreciated, knowing that what you're doing works. I think that's motivation enough.
Yeah. For me, my mom told me my first day of my first big girl job out of college was, you're going to try and change a life every single day. And that's what I try and tell myself every single day. And even if it's putting together a PowerPoint or a curriculum for a lesson plan, I eventually am going to use that to impact a child in some way, or impact a parent or a teacher, educate somebody that day. Like, I'm going to impact their life, and whether they know it right there in that moment, or 10 years in the future when they're like, oh, wait, I remember being taught that, like, wow, I have that in my back pocket. So yeah, that really helped me when my mom was like, you're going to change your life today, but you just don't know it yet.
Beth, you spoke about, hey, we start with somebody in this age category or this grade category. And Sarah, you talked about impact. And with what you do, how does the legalization of marijuana, or the accessibility now of marijuana, impact the teachings and the focus of what you're trying to help these young adults, these children, understand for those future life lessons or skills or abilities that, they see now out in the public all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge shift for our community, especially. There's tons of dispensaries popping up everywhere around Delco. And I got a lot of kids and parents and teachers asking questions about this, and how can they talk to their kids about it if it comes up, or what if a parent is a medical marijuana patient? Like, how do I keep my stuff safe from my kids? And it's just having that open discussion of saying, listen, this is something that is legal in our state. So what are the guidelines for this? I always talk about law and ages. So I believe it's 18. It might be 21. I'm not 110%, but you have to be a certain age to get a medical marijuana card. You also have to have a certain diagnosis. That is by a doctor, one doctor. Then you have to go to another doctor to then get cleared for that medical marijuana card. So just keeping that discussion open, honest, really decreases the curiosity for it. So they're like, oh, okay, so there's really no chance of me doing this now as a youth, but if it's something I want to look into when I'm older, then yeah, that's that option. But by that time, it may not even be something that they're into anymore. Like, it may not even be a question. So yeah, just keeping open, honest discussion, especially with parents who are, using medical marijuana, but keeping it away from your kids, having it locked up in those pill pods, or we have LockMed bags that are available for the entire county that you can put that stuff in. That open discussion. It's very, very important to keep things clear between parents, family, teachers, all that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many questions. I think just as confused as we are the youth, especially, even the parents, they're just as confused. Like, right, if you're saying it's not really healthy, then why are we giving it as medicine? So really kind of teaching like the difference between the two, like the medical marijuana versus recreational marijuana. And just sticking with, the law still says recreationally, it's against the law.
Beth and Sarah, is there anything that you want the What's Happening Delco community to know more about you or Chimes Holcomb Prevention that we haven't spoken about on the podcast today?
I think we covered just about everything that we thought we were going to. I would say just connect with us on social media. That's probably the easiest way. Chimes does have a website, chimes.org, but that covers all of Chimes programming, which I mean, there's so much. So it's probably easiest just to go directly to social media, send us a message. We monitor them every day, so we'll get it immediately. And just reach out if you have any questions or need any services, or, we can connect you. If we don't have those services, we can connect you with the right person in Delco that does.
Yeah.
And on social media, remember to hit that follow button so you can get that expansion to more people to see what you're doing, right?
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being a friend of What's Happening, Delco. Look, this is so important for the health and wellness of our Delco community. Take a look at the social media sites. Have Chimes Holcomb Prevention come out to your school, your service, to listen and hear what this is all about. And let's keep Delco healthy and safe. How's that?
That sounds great.
Thank you,
so
ladies.
much for
Have a
having
wonderful
us.
day.
You too. Thank you.